What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Lexalexus. Today it is more championship score predictions. These are going to be the last predictions before we get yet another international break. We seem to be getting a load of these international breaks, unfortunately. Before we move on, this is what the current Lexalexus Football Prediction League is looking like. I had an alright game week actually. I got two correct scores, which was Millwall and Reading, and also the West Brom and Hull game. So I've closed the gap a little bit on the top two, but I'm still 12 points adrift from James Macy, so it's still a lot of work for me to try and build up for in terms of the prediction league. And this is what the League One table is looking at. And I'm also going to welcome my new viewers, Matt Payne and Jamie Gould, into this league. As always, guys, if you do want to be featured in the Lexalexus Football Prediction Leagues, make sure you leave your score predictions in the comments down below. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. It does really help the channel. And please share this video in this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But without any further ado, let's start predicting these weekend's games. So this weekend we're doing things a little bit differently. Normally we get FIFA in the background and I predict, but due to technical difficulties in my stream last time, I'm not going to feature FIFA's footage this time. FIFA's already predicted their games. If you do want to know what FIFA predicted for this weekend, make sure you check out my live streams. They happen sometimes on Monday and sometimes on a Wednesday. So this is when we stream FIFA's games. But we'll talk about Barnsley and Hull first, because this game for me is very important. This is pretty much as close to a relegation 6-pointer already, and we're already in match day 17 of the Championship. So in terms of these games, Hull obviously have lost 5 games in a row. They are really struggling with form. Barnsley had a horrible run of form, to be quite honest with you. I think it was 8 straight defeats. Eventually they actually managed to not only end that, but win their first match in over 15 games, when they managed to beat Derby County, who were bottom place of the table, by 2-1. It was a very tough game for them, but Aralea Isquer scoring a fantastic goal in that game. What I think Hull are going to find difficult is that they've not scored in their last 5 away games either. So that's going to be very tricky for them moving forward. Now, also what I want to show you quickly is the squads that they may go for as well. So looking at the squads, so they may use Helik. Anderson did make a couple of minutes for his return from injury, so it's exciting that he could make a full start this time. In terms of Hull, I think they still going to have to stick with McGuinness, but he's not really shown up so far this season. So if I'm going to predict this game, I mean, the website is predicting a 1-0 win to Barnsley. I'm predicting a Barnsley win, but I think it'll be more one-sided than that. I'm going to go for a 3-0 victory to Barnsley. I could be wrong. I think Barnsley will blow Hull away based on performances. So I'll go for a Barnsley win. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we've got Birmingham going up against Reading. Very contrasting results from both these teams in midweek. Birmingham beat Bristol City by 3-0. It was a fantastic performance, and actually really good partnership between Deeney and Hogan. I'm really impressed for what I've seen of them so far. I am really encouraged for how they are going to be moving forward. Reading are just in a poor run of form at the moment. If you can see here, 4 straight defeats for Reading, with a potential points deduction looming, and there's more news on that as well, that they're ready to accept it as well. If they got taken those 9 points right now, if you expanded the league table here, they would be right there in 22nd place actually. So Barnsley will be outside of the bottom 3 if they do get these 9-point deductions. So it's not looking good for Reading at the moment, especially if they cannot pick up their form. They're just continuously falling down the table. But I've got to have a load of sympathy, because look at their injury list. It is absolutely ridiculous for what Reading have to do with. And the fact they've still got a very decent-ish squad that they can hold is quite impressive, to be honest. Chong's got a very unfortunate injury, but Ronnie McGree has more than stepped up into Tommy Chong's position. He's recognised the talent he has and has actually really lifted up his game, which I'm really encouraged by. So if you go down to what the website's predicting, they're predicting 1-0 Birmingham. I think I might agree actually. I don't think there'll be many goals, but I'm going to say a 1-0 victory to Birmingham. As always, if you want to see FIFA's predictions, make sure you check out my live stream on the Wednesday. Next up, we've got Blackburn going up against Sheffield United. Both these sides would argue they've had a really bad result, but nothing as bad as Blackburn. They've conceded 7 goals in midweek against a Fulham side who are completely ruthless. They've just been blowing teams away, and when you go down to 10 men as well, it's not really going to help your case. I think back to even when they went down to 10 men themselves against Huddersfield and they still scored 5 against them. They really are a ruthless team. Sheffield United took the lead against Nottingham Forest with Morgan Gibbs-White getting the goal. Good work between him and Billy Sharp. But the fact they conceded so quickly afterwards to Lewis Graben, it's very disappointing, and they're not managing the game very, very well. If you can see, their form's looking quite sporadic, quite inconsistent at the moment, and only separated by a matter of 4 points here. It's crazy that Blackburn are still within touching distance of the top 6 based on that 7-0 drumming that they had in midweek. Now, if we're looking at the scores, we're also going to know that Van Heck is going to be banned following his red card last weekend. So maybe someone like Hayden Carter is going to go into the squad instead. To predict this game, though, is tricky because I think Blackburn at home, apart from that horror show of a game against Fulham, I think they've been quite good at home. So the website's predicting 1-0 to Sheffield United. I think I'm going to go on a very similar scoreline here. I'm going to edge Sheffield United by 2 goals to 1. I think they might just do enough, but I'll be very interested to know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, we've got Bournemouth going up against Swansea. I mean, who saw this coming from both teams? So both teams broke a record. Bournemouth broke their record of being the only unbeaten team in the Championship by losing 2-1 at home to Preston North End. Annie McCann and Daniel Iverson being the 2 heroes of North End in that evening. And for Swansea, they've defeated the only team to not be beaten at home so far this season, and that, of course, was Coventry. They beat them by 2 goals to 1, of course. And it was a very shocking performance where they actually were 2-0 up within the first 20 minutes of the game. It was a really encouraging performance, and if anything, we're seeing a little bit more grit, a bit more versatility, and I think Russell Martin is learning with every single game he does in the Championship, which is encouraging. So if you look at the form, obviously Bournemouth had pretty much a flawless run until that really poor defeat against Preston there. But look at Swansea's form. They've really picked up their form. 4 wins in their last 6 matches and 11th place in the table. This is really encouraging stuff for Swansea, who of course were really, really close to the bottom 3, within the last couple of months or so. I think it's a big blow for the fact they've lost Zamora and Smith there, 2 really talented fullbacks there. So the prediction for the website is 1-1, and you know what? I'm going to agree. I think this is going to be a 1-1 draw. Based on performances so far, I think Swansea might be able to get something. I mean, if they lose, then I just think Swansea are just going to be inconsistent. But I'll go for a 1-1 draw and have faith that Swansea could get something. But let me know what you think in the comments. Next up, we've got Cardiff going up against Huddersfield Town. Cardiff with a defeat, of course, in midweek against QPR. It only ended 1-0, but really could have been a couple more goals. QPR did have plenty of chances in that game. And Cardiff, once again, just looking very, very toothless in their game. In terms of Huddersfield Town, they did draw 1-1 with Peterborough. They'd be disappointed with that because they took the lead, and they deservedly took the lead as well. But tactics from Corberan were poor. They sat back, and invited pressure from Peterborough. And knowing that Peterborough have got a much better home record than their away record so far this season, that was a very dangerous game to do. And ultimately, they paid the price for it. So Cardiff having a much stronger record than Huddersfield, and Huddersfield actually not winning against Cardiff at all. I mean, they've not even won them away from home, and in terms of away from home, Huddersfield have not even beaten Cardiff in their last 12 meetings, which is a really shocking bit of play for them. But look at that poor form from Cardiff there. Huddersfield have got every opportunity for me now to pick up their first win against Cardiff in over 12 matches. Now, in terms of predicting this game, the website is predicting 1-0 Huddersfield Town. I could see a similar result like that, but I don't actually think we'll get any goals. I think Cardiff will really sit back, and I think Huddersfield will have more of the chances, but I think they'll be frustrated. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. Let me know what you think. Next up, we've got Coventry going up against Bristol City. This is going to be interesting to see how Coventry respond. Of course, they had their first home defeat of the season in midweek when they lost against Swansea. They did pull one back from Carl McFadden, and they were knocking on the door, but Swansea really sat back, and I think it was very interesting to see Swansea actually play without the ball, and actually I think they can cope well without the ball as well. I think it was just a really good managerial performance by Russell Martin. Now, Coventry have got to try and respond against a Bristol City side who've been very, very inconsistent with their form. As you can see there, 4 defeats in their last 6, but in between that they've had 2 fantastic wins against Peterborough and of course against Barnsley. But these are against teams right down in the bottom of the Championship. So I think Bristol City may struggle here, especially against the Coventry side, who are still within the top 6 and by no means a really easy team to play up against. If anything, they're one of the most difficult teams to play against, especially at home. They would have been proven that they actually were the hardest team to play up against at home as well. So in terms of the predictions, the website's going 1-0 Coventry, so not many goals. I actually think we'll get a couple of goals. Bristol City have been leaking a couple of goals, but so have Coventry, to be honest. So I'm going to go with a 3-1 victory to Coventry. I think they'll get over the line there. I think they'll respond well after their defeat in midweek. Next up is Luton going up against Stoke. Now, I always look forward to when Luton play Stoke because it is Nathan Jones playing up against his former managed club. Now, in terms of the record there, he's not really been able to get the better of Stoke because as you can see with Luton, they've not won against Stoke in their last 6 matches and Stoke have actually won 4 out of their last 6 meetings. Stoke will be feeling quite proud that they got us away win in midweek. It's only their second away win all season when they beat Blackpool by 1-0. They ultimately did hang on a little bit. With Luton Town, they did have a fantastic victory against Middlesbrough after going 1-0 down and managed to score 3 goals in 5 minutes. The fact that they can change the game like that is really, really encouraging. Now look how close these sides are, only within 1 point separating them. And whoever wins this could very, very likely be in the top 6 by the end of this weekend going into the international break, which I think is very, very crucial at this stage of the season. So the website's predicting 1-1 in this game, and I was thinking 1-1, but this prediction took me quite a while to make. But I'm actually going to back Luton here. I actually think they might get a victory. I'm going to go 2-1 Luton. We'll see if they can deliver on my terms. But it'll be very, very likely that Luton will let me down. But it's the Championship. You always got to expect the unexpected. Next, we've got Millwall going up against Derby County. Contrasting results for both teams in midweek. Millwall picking up a 1-0 win against Reading. Derby losing 2-1 to Barnsley. And that's going to be a really crucial blow for Derby. Because look at this. They are on 5 points out of 16 matches. Now, even if you added their 12 points on to their total of 5 points in the moment, they would only be up to 20th place in the table. So it's not like Derby are really performing out of their skin and they deserve, much better. They'd only be, 6 points away from the bottom 3. And 20th place in the table is by no means a successful season whatsoever. It's not like they've got mid-table form. So for me, Derby have got to really try and knuckle down for me now. They've really missed some good opportunities here. They play the Millwall side where they've been doing really, really well with their form. As you can see, 4 wins in their last 6 matches. But we don't seem to get any draws with this Millwall side now. I used to say that we get a load of draws with this side, but in their last 6 games, it's either been a win or a loss. Website is predicting 1-0 Millwall. I'm going to predict a very similar scoreline. I'm going to say 2-1. I think it'll be a 2-1 victory to Millwall. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next up, we've got Nottingham Forest going up against Preston. Preston picked up, I think, the result of midweek to beat the league leaders by 2-1, being the only team to beat Bournemouth so far this season. They deserve a load of plaudits. Iverson was incredible. Ali McCann was incredible. There were so many players that really stepped up. And I think Frankie McAvoy got the game plan spot on. They stayed toe-to-toe with Bournemouth. They took their chances and actually really hit them at times on the break and really found some gaps in their back line. And when Bournemouth were pushing for the equaliser, they were so determined to stay well organised, and they did. With Forest, they did draw 1-1 with Sheffield United. By no means an easy team to play against either. Good equalising goal by Lewis Grabban there. And actually, I think we were quite unlucky not to get all 3 points there. They definitely were pushing for the winner. It did look like the most likely team to win as well. Very similar in terms of the points between these two sides as well. Only 2 places separate them and only within 2 points as well. So, is it going to be a really, really close game, I think? What is the website predicting? They're predicting 1-1. You know what? I think I agree. I think both these sides will cancel each other out. I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. Let me know what you think. Next up, we've got Peterborough going up against Fulham. Now, we don't have a lot of things to actually compare with Peterborough and Fulham. As you can see here, they've only met each other twice. And if you see this there, this is what I'm worried about. Fulham 6, Peterborough 2. And now, albeit that was from 10 years ago, and Fulham, I think, had a much better squad 10 years ago to now. But it doesn't make for good reading, especially with the amount of goals Peterborough are conceding. They did pick up a point, against Huddersfield, which I think was good. But they really need 3. They really need to try and still increase their gap from the bottom three, especially with Barnsley picking up a win in midweek. They've now closed the gap for them. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see Peterborough can still increase that gap. I mean, look at the form. It's completely night and day, isn't it? 5 wins straight in a row for Fulham. I think they're having really strong runs of form now. Really, really confident Fulham are at the moment. What is the website predicting? They're predicting 4-0. And you know what? I think I actually will agree. I actually think it's going to be quite a really, really heavy scoring game. I'm going to go... yeah, I'll go 4-0 Fulham. I hope Peterborough prove me wrong, but I think Fulham, based on how confident they are, I just don't see any team getting in their way at the moment. Next, I'll go West Brom going up against Middlesbrough. Now, West Brom did pick up a win in midweek against Hull. It wasn't convincing. There's still a lot of progress to be made about West Brom, but at least they're picking up wins. But if you can see there, it's alternated between a win and a loss. And they've got to try and get rid of that inconsistency and string a run of wins together. Because if they're not careful, look at the gap now. It is a 4-point gap between them and Fulham. So they've got to try and make sure that that gap does not increase if they want to get automatically promoted. Now, they play a Middlesbrough side who have really just been a bit disappointing, to be honest. You know, these 2 games were supposed to be a celebratory 2 games where Neil Warnock equalled and beat the all-time managerial English football record. But 2 defeats in those games, which I think is quite disencouraging. You'd hope if your squad are playing for you that they would really, really go for it in those games. So that for me is quite disappointing, to be honest with you. In terms of what the website's predicting, they're predicting 2-1. It's interesting. You know what? I think we'll get some form of response from Middlesbrough. I think West Brom have still not quite convinced me yet that they'll still string a good amount of wins in a row. I'm going to go 1-1 actually. Let's see what you guys think in the comments. And the final game to predict is Blackpool going up against Queen's Park Rangers. Now, this is the very late game going on the Saturday. And I think it's a good choice as well. I think both these teams will prove to be a very different sort of game plan. Blackpool don't really play with a lot of the ball. They sit back quite a bit. QPR a lot more expressive on the ball as well. So good contrast of styles there, and I really hope we get a really close game as a result of it. So in terms of the table, they're only separated by 1 point, but look at that, Blackpool are 5 places lower than QPR. It just goes to show how close this area of the table is in the top 6, which I think is really shaping up to be a really close and really intense championship season. So in terms of what the website's predicting, I mean, look at this injury list from Blackpool. They're coping very, very well. And QPR don't have anywhere near the number of injuries than what Blackpool have had in the moment. They're predicting 1-1. I can see this game being quite a dramatic one and quite a shocking one. I'm going to say, and I might be wrong on this, I think this will be another Blackpool masterstroke. They've beaten the likes of Fulham at Bloomfield Road, and I think they'll do the same to QPR. I think they'll score though, because QPR still remain the only team in the Championship to score in every single game this season. So I'll go for 2-1 Blackpool. Why not? Let's predict Blackpool for a win. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below as well. So that is all my predictions for this weekend. I hope you guys like this different format of my score predictions video. Please let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. And please always remember to put your score predictions in the comments down below as well. And to finally end the video, on the left hand side of the screen are my Premier League predictions. If you guys want to see a Premier League predictions league, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That is how we're going to get those leads. But please also give the videos a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button. It does really help. And please do make sure you share this video and this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really helps. But now I'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw any of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care.